Hi guys, this is Melody and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I made the last English video and some of you have been requesting it. And then when I filmed for today's topic, I thought I could actually do it in English. And so there it is. As I turned 25 earlier, I've made a little reflection on myself and I wanted to share with you guys the 3 most important lessons I've learned by age 25. I know this is gonna sound cliche, but since I treat you guys, my audience, as my friends, I still wanted to share with you guys about my thoughts. These are really genuine thoughts that I have, and I'm not sure if you guys agree with me, but let's watch it, and you guys may treat it as a casual chat. Lesson number 1. Don't overthink about how others perceive you. Like many of you, back then during my teenage years, all I cared about was how other people looked at me. And I used to make a lot of crucial decisions solely based on what other people said. It might sound ironic, but it was actually one of my key motivations to work hard for the public exam. As some of you might know, I actually did not come from a prestigious high school, and I wanted to prove to everyone around me that I could achieve or even outperform those so-called traditionally elite students. I have to say, I craved recognition from people around me, and the more they looked down on me, saying, oh, you don't come from a traditionally prestigious high school, so you're not going to get into a top university program, the more they looked down on me, the more motivated I was. That's why I won't say caring about others' perception is certainly a bad thing, as long as you don't overdo it or kind of manage to leverage it in a positive way. But it's often dangerous to care too much about how other people perceive you. As some of you might know, I actually transferred from studying law to global business studies in my freshman year. When I graduated from high school with a perfect score in the public examination, I was suddenly placed under the spotlight, and I cared even more about how other people perceive me. Global business studies had been my top choice way before even I took the public examination, and it's kind of like my dream major. But right before the university application deadline, which was after I got my score, I changed my top choice to law, just because people around me kept telling me that law is a profession while business isn't. So I should choose something that so-called guarantees a better future with the score that I got. But to be honest, what could be guaranteed in this day and age? Anyway, back then I cared too much about whether other people would think my choice was smart enough and whether my major would look professional enough. Okay, it sounds really stupid when I look back, but that was my mentality back then. The dilemma repeated few months afterwards when I wanted to quit studying law. I knew it wasn't for me, but I still struggled a lot because I was overwhelmed about how other people would criticize my decision. Some would say I was just escaping from reality and I wouldn't do well even if I switched my major. Some would say it was a complete waste of time, and some would say I should continue to study law and work in the business field after graduation, which kind of makes sense and it's like a feasible option. Despite all the struggles I had, this time I decided not to overthink and just follow my heart. I still recall how shocked the admission office staff was when he saw my quit application. But I have no regrets, and when I look back right now, it was actually one of the best decisions I've ever made in life. I also learned this lesson through my YouTube journey. I started this channel when I was 18, and there have been criticisms from the very, very beginning. The most common criticism is that I always advertise about my perfect score in DSE and IELTS. People are saying that I'm arrogant and I'm just bragging about my examination results all the time. But my real intention is really simple. I just wanted to appear more convincing in front of my new audience. So my channel, it's all about sharing study tips and examination skills. For people who have never watched my videos before, they would think, who is Melody and are her tips credible? And I think the quickest and easiest way to convince them is to demonstrate my objective achievements, which is my public examination score. No matter how many times I explained to everyone via various channels, there are always people who don't believe in my real intention and they simply dislike me and criticize me all the time. I used to care a lot about those criticisms and it caused a lot of emotional upheavals, but after these 7 years of experience, I realized you're never gonna please everyone. There are always people who are gonna dislike you. If you always care about how other people perceive you and overthink all the time, you're gonna deviate from what you truly want to achieve and you will no longer be yourself. You will just be acting as the version of you where you think you could please everyone, but it's just not gonna happen. It's like a double loss. So first, you can't be yourself, and second, there are still gonna be people who don't like you. So why don't you just be yourself, right? So that's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2. Learn how to say no and don't spend too much time on meaningless social interactions. I have to make it clear here, I'm not saying all social interactions are meaningless. In fact, they're super important and I would say it's a necessity in our society. So I think there are basically 2 types of social interactions. First, emphatic social interaction, and second, utilitarian social interaction. For the former, it's more like the kind of friendships we had when we were kids. Your social status doesn't matter. As long as you and I share common interest, like we both like playing video games, we could hang around together. Human beings are social animals, and it's a necessity for almost all of us to engage in emphatic social interactions. It doesn't matter whether you're an extrovert or an introvert. Most introverts may not reach out to new people they meet, but they still need friends. You need friends to share your thoughts with. You need friends to engage in activities to get together. You need friends to lend you a hand or cheer you up when you face difficulties. Yes, you may argue you could still enjoy your hobbies on your own, but I guess most of you would agree you gain happiness and satisfaction from hanging out with friends, right? So, a moderate amount of emphatic social interaction is a great way to recharge ourselves and a way to fulfill our emotional needs. The latter one that I mentioned is utilitarian social interaction, which is more common among adults. The essence of utilitarian social interaction is the exchange in value. To put it simply, you make friends because you think they could potentially bring you benefits in the future, be it money, social status, specialty knowledge, or even job opportunities, and they think about you in the same way. From a utilitarian perspective, life is full of serendipity, and you never know when these people would be helpful to you, so it's always a good idea to broaden your network, especially when you're young. That's why I still won't say this kind of social interaction is meaningless, although it may not bring you true happiness. So what's meaningless social interaction? I would define it as social interactions that neither fulfill the emphatic nor the utilitarian side. There has long been controversy about whether one's capability or network plays a more important role in one's success. To be cliche, I'm gonna say both. Looking in retrospect, time is really a scarce resource and it should be allocated in a more meticulous manner. If you spend too much time engaging in meaningless social interactions, you're basically exploiting yourself from developing and honing your practical skills. Having a well-developed social network does allow you to showcase or even leverage your capability, but if you've got no capability to start with, then it's kind of meaningless to engage in a lot of utilitarian social interactions. Unless it provides you with the emotional value, then it would fall in the first category, which is emphatic social interaction. The people you meet may help you once or twice, but it's not going to work out in the long run if you can't provide value to them, given they're also thinking from a utilitarian perspective when they make friends. When I look back, I always had this mentality as a college freshman. I tried my best to attend every single social event I was aware of. because I was afraid of missing out the potential to meet those so-called useful people. And another reason is that I was afraid if I didn't show up frequently enough, I would be excluded from the social groups. I was simply too scared to say no to people inviting me out. If I have to categorize it, I would say it's definitely utilitarian social interaction because I didn't enjoy most of them. But are these useful utilitarian social interaction? I won't say all of them are meaningless or useless, and I'm grateful I did make some useful connections through the process, but I wish I had been more selective back then. Long story short, I wish I had focused more on myself and people who are truly important to me in my early 20s, say family, say high school buddies. I don't want to sound old here, but it's really when you grow up that you realize how fast your parents or grandparents are turning old. And once you get into the workforce, you won't have much quality time to be spent with them. So yes, that's lesson number 2. Know your priority, learn how to say no to people, and don't spend too much time on meaningless social interactions. Lesson 3. Dream big, never underestimate yourself, and it's never too late to change. I know this also sounds super cliche, but my own experience has told me that this is true. I won't say I'm a super successful person, but I'm confident to tell people that by age 25, I've made achievements that I'm proud of, and these achievements are something that I thought I was never gonna achieve. I believe a lot of you watching this video right now are ambitious individuals, but you may still think some of your goals or dreams are too far away from where you are right now. Like I mentioned in the first point, I did not come from a traditionally elite background, so I used to look down on myself a lot, even when people around me said they've got faith in me. I just lacked confidence in myself. Like I mentioned, I used to make a lot of crucial decisions solely based on what other people said, and that's because I didn't even trust myself. I'm so glad I attempted to change my mentality when I was 16 or 17, right before the public examination, and I think the change in mentality made all the differences. Life is not a fairy tale. It's brutal that most dreams actually won't come true, but from what I've learned in the past 10 years, I still think it's important to set goals that you deem unachievable right now, because that's where your long-term motivation comes from. I've seen so many people treating weekends and long holidays as their sole motivation in life. While these are also part of where my motivation comes from, I won't say they're my main source of motivation. I don't want to sound superior here, and I respect everyone's life choices because some people simply doesn't want to spend too much time on work or study. They have other life priorities and want to spend more time on that during their holidays. But I would still say it's miserable if looking forward to weekends and long holidays is the only motivation in life. That's why it's important to have more long-term goals. Like, these are goals that you're not going to achieve in the next 1 or 2 years, but they're kind of achievable in the next 10 or even 20 years if you work hard. And that's where your motivation comes from. We've all heard of young people getting rich overnight, especially with the crazy stock market and crypto market last year. But my definition of dreaming big isn't like that. Instead, it's a step-by-step process and you have to be patient. When I graduated from high school, my school had a history of fewer than 10 years, so there wasn't really like a track record. When I told people I aimed at top university programs, they were all telling me that the likelihood for admission was low, but then I did it. When I was in college, I aimed at securing a job in the high finance field, and people around me were telling me, like, once again, it's gonna be super tough. It's unlikely that you're gonna get in, and you might need to work harder in college than you were in high school. But then I did it. And when I first started this YouTube channel, I've never thought it could reach the scale it is right now, although it took a rather long period of time for me to achieve the 100K subscribers milestone, but still I did it. and it's never too late to start or to change. Now I feel old in a sense that 10 years ago, I used to have a very narrow definition of success. I thought there's a definite path that you have to follow and that would lead to success, and if you don't follow that particular route, you're a loser. But as I grow older, I realized it isn't really true. It's just that everyone follows their own pace, and different people have different values at different life stages. It's kind of meaningless to compare yourself against other people. And it's also meaningless to think in a way that just because you start or change later than other people, you're not going to make the same achievements as those so-called successful people at your age. Because if you have to think in that way, why don't you compare yourself with prodigies or the richest people in the world? I know this sounds really cliche, but really, lesson 3 learned. Have your own goals, dream big, don't underestimate yourself, and it's not about comparing with other people, but really focusing on yourself. Otherwise, it's very difficult for you to feel happiness. Anyway, these are the 3 most important lessons I've learned by age 25. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, although it sounds really cliche. I know I've been repeating the word cliche because I think it really is, but if you have any other thoughts, feel free to tell me in the comments section down below. I hope my sharing has given you some inspiration, and if it did, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel. My channel is mainly about sharing study tips and examination skills for DSE and IELTS. You may also follow my Instagram accounts if you're interested. See you guys next time. Bye!